Well, hello everyone. It's 4:30 p.m. It's a chill evening, afternoon, whatever you want to call it. And I just got finished watching Moon Knight. Well, it dropped over here at around 1, but at that time the temperature was so high, it was giving me a headache. So, anyways, let's get to talking about Moon Knight. Before we begin, hi everyone. My name is Gopal Chakrabarti. You may know me as G.C.Nightwalker, which is my channel name and my pen name. I am an author of this novel, which I self published. Links to buy this will be in the description. So, yeah, let's get started with the video. So, this show is everything I thought it would be and more, at least going by the first episode and where it's implying that the show is going. So the first 3 minutes of this episode, that is including the title, the opening Marvel title crawl, are completely without dialogue. It's just music over some solid acting by Ethan Hawke and then by Oscar Isaac. Did I get the name right? Yes, Oscar Isaac. Yeah. So the very first scene, we see Ethan Hawke's character Arthur Harrow do this sort of weird ritual where he places something by the side, then then he pours a glass of water. He rubs the water around the glass, which, in case you didn't know, pouring water in a glass and then dipping a finger and then rubbing it around the edges, that actually creates a form of sound. It makes me wonder whether this sound is that sound that he's trying to produce is meant to call on to his goddess Amit. It is a goddess, right? Yeah, it's a goddess. He drinks the water. He dips his finger, does that, drinks the water, then breaks the glass and puts the glass pieces in his shoes and wears them and walks away. Now, there's two things I noticed here. Number one, his feet aren't already scarred, or at least not visibly scarred, as I can see, and there is no blood on their feet. So, this is something he hasn't done for at least a while. But at the same time, I think he does do this regularly because he has a walking stick, and it makes me think that maybe doing this repeatedly has done some sort of damage to his feet, or maybe just simply the act of doing this is making him unable to walk properly, and therefore he needs a walking stick. And also the nonchalant way in which he does it kind of gives the impression that, yeah, he has done this before. And after that merry scenario, we meet our sort of main character, Stephen Grant, or at least one of our many main characters. You know what? This is going to get confusing. I'll just call him the main character. So we meet Stephen Grant, and we see in very short a time, we see that he is totally stressed out. He has not had sleep for God knows how long. He has a sand circle around his bed. He has his ankle restraints. He has a fish, and he has tape with which he has sealed the door. So as soon as all of this is introduced, he immediately goes to call his mother. Seeing the nature of the show, and later on seeing him talk to a statue, makes me wonder, is this actually his mother, or is his mother perhaps dead and this is just something he does to maybe calm himself? I'm saying this because whenever he talks to his mom's voice is not heard, and the other times when he talks to someone on the phone, the voice is heard. So that's the detail I noticed. God knows what that means. I lead that to the more seasoned breakdown people. So we see his working place. It's a museum, Egyptian museum, and at first we get the impression that he is the tour guide, where he introduces a little kid. First, he stops her from putting chewing gum in a Pyramid of Giza model, and then he introduces her to the process of mummification. There, she asks him this Very weird question, which we could just pass it off as, oh, her being a child. But the question she asks him is, how did you feel about failing to pass the field of reeds? I'm emphasizing on this is because in the comics, at least up to my knowledge, Moon Knight does have a little girl persona, and so it makes me wonder whether or not this little girl has some sort of reference to that. And also when she says that, he's like, that's weird because I'm not dead. And then there's a blink and you miss it, or rather get distracted and you miss it moment where he whispers, am I, which sort of gives you insight into exactly how much he's questioning his own life. So apparently when he was Mark Spector, he set up a date with another woman which he has no recollection of. The day goes by and then he goes to sleep. Now while going to sleep, it's very interesting, he is trying actively not to sleep, because obviously he seems to think that he's sleepwalking, which makes me wonder, why isn't he going to a therapist? Or has he perhaps already gone to a therapist and maybe it wasn't as fruitful, which obviously it wasn't, because this show is a little supernatural in its nature, so it didn't help him as much. He tries to constantly go to sleep, and then we get this amazing scene from the trailer where the voices overlap over each other, and he immediately he just closes his eyes and wakes up in middle of nowhere with his jaw broken, and he is in the middle of a gunfight. He somehow escapes it and finds himself in front of Arthur Harrow and the cult of Amit. Now it is very interesting that how the cult of Amit is portrayed. So a little bit of backstory here. Amit sits near the scales of judgment in the Duat. Duat is, I mean, I'm being very loose here. It's sort of the afterlife of Egyptian mythology. And Amit is something which has the front quarters of a lion, hind quarters of a hippo, and the face of a crocodile. She sits with Anubis near his throne, where Anubis weighs your heart against the feather of Mayat. The basic idea being that if your heart is lighter than the feather of Mayat, you either followed the code or you have done better than the code, so your heart is lighter than the feather of Mayat. However, if your heart is heavier, you have not abided by the code of Mayat and you are not worthy of the afterlife, and as a result, your heart is devoured by Amit. That's the role Amit plays in Egyptian mythology. Now, here, she is often portrayed as a boogeyman, which is very interesting because in ancient Egyptian times, Amit was the one thing which sort of portrayed everything that Egyptian feared. And so she wasn't really worshipped, she was feared like universally, pretty much. He meets this cult. They remember his Mark Spector persona, which he doesn't know about yet. Stephen Grant doesn't know about his Mark Spector persona yet. And he has this scarab. He tries to give the scarab, but Khonshu stops him, or maybe Mark Spector stops him. And immediately we get another scene of Mark Spector taking over and the bloody scarab in his hand. I mean, oh my god, just imagine that scenario. But anyways, we get this awesome chase sequence where he's moving in and out of consciousness, and it's like totally like I can't find words to like express how awesome that was. And as soon as it feels like this is just not going to work out, he passes out and wakes up in his bed. And obviously he thinks that it's the next day, which is Thursday, and he sees that his fish has changed. Particularly, his fish, instead of having one fin, has two fins. And he goes to the fish seller and says, dude, this has two fins, what the hell? Obviously the fish seller is like, what are you talking about? You came here yesterday as well. I said the same thing to you. All fishes here have two fins. I don't know what is your obsession with Nemo, la 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 la. And then he notices the clock and he's like, oh my god, the clock is wrong, I just woke up. And just more of him going crazy. And lo and behold, he has missed almost 2 days of his life, and it's Sunday. 2 days? Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He's missed 3 days of his life, and it's Sunday, and so obviously the date has gone. And I really like this scene because it sort of shows the how this entire thing is affecting affecting Stephen Grant's life in general, where he's just like, the guy's just trying to hold back tears, man, and he just orders the most expensive steak he can just to drown his sorrows. And he comes back to his apartment, and what do you know? He finds a phone in the in hidden in his roof compartment, or hidden behind a plank in his roof. What is this thing? It's hidden in his roof. Just moving on. He sees so many missed calls from one person. He tries calling the person, and the person calls him Mark. Now, he did have the experience of Mark Spector, where he was not supposed to be awake. It was supposed to be Mark Spector who was awake. And because he woke up in his bed, he just considered the whole thing to be a dream. But now this is coming to reality. And here we get the first time where Mark and Steven talk to each other. And this is a very interesting scene because because Mark Spector, who is essentially Moon Knight, only appears in the mirror for most of the episode when the lights are gone, but not completely gone. Kind of like the moon in the night sky. It's a very interesting parallel. Like the lights are very dim, but they are still there, and that's just enough so that you can see yourself. And that's when Stephen Grant and that's when Mark Spector and Khonshu appear to Stephen Grant, and he tries to run away in the lift, and we get this clip which was released earlier. I'm not going to talk about it, but it was a very interesting scene. Nevertheless, it was a very like fearful scene. My heart was pounding at like 100 beats per second or something. I guess that's not possible, but you get the point. Then he immediately wakes up in the bus going to his job. And what do you know? In the bus, he sees Arthur Harrow again. So now two things from his supposed dreams are in reality. He tries to tell the security guard to not let this guy in. He's being followed. He tries to work things around, but eventually it doesn't work. And Arthur Harrow gets a hold of him and tries to pull this scale trick on him, where measuring whether or not his heart is in the good place. Good place. My theory is that this goddess Amet is a complete piece of shit, as most gods in Marvel Cinematic Universe history seem to be, and that she is just testing whether or not the person's motivations align with her agenda. And obviously, Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, has multiple personalities. We have only seen one of them predominantly and hints of the other, so the scale goes nowhere. He immediately runs away and goes about his day. I mean, man, why didn't you leave the museum? This guy found you there. What were you expecting to happen? But regardless, after the day gets over, he hears a dog in the background, and this scene made me so angry because I did not record my own reaction, because man, I was literally screaming at the screen because I knew this is not a dog. Amit is very closely related to Anubis, and we saw a Anubis jackal in the trailer. So I was like, this is an Anubis jackal. Run, Stephen, run. You cannot defeat this. Run. And obviously, he cannot hear me, but that's whatever. And he finds this jackal. He tries to distract it with a sound, which sort of makes me believe that, okay, maybe this creature is actually an animal and not really sentient like I first thought it would be. It chases him to a bathroom, and there Mark Spector fully reveals himself to Steven and talks to him directly and asks him to give control of the body. Up until now, Stephen Grant has been running away from this creature. The moment Mark Spector takes over and the Moon Knight mummification armor wraps around him, immediately the script completely flips, and now the creature is running away for its life. Like, wow. That was a twist. And Moon Knight kills the creature and he comes out. So, man, like this episode was like something. It had everything, man. It had the sort of mental health aspect of him losing hours of sleep, him not knowing what is real, what is not. It really made me question as well that whether this voice in his head is real, whether Khonshu is real. One thing is for sure, whether it is real or not, all of this clearly has real consequences on his life. And Arthur Harrow is a real person, and he runs a cult which also has real consequences. Now, obviously, this is Marvel, so eventually this is going to turn out to be real, sort of. But the main thing is that it made me question what is real and what is not, which is what I was expecting from the show. Some people might have some complaints with it because this was an entirely Stephen Grant focused episode, and maybe like 10 seconds of Moon Knight, a few, I don't know, I didn't count the exact seconds, but we got a few seconds of Moon Knight. Whenever there was like a cool action scene about to happen, the camera would just cut away and we would have this dream like thing, and Stephen Grant would wake up again. But the thing is, that's what's interesting, because there was this saying that nothing can be ever as good as what you imagine. you know like I think that was in the context of horror, as in nothing can be as scary as what you imagine, but that's the same thing as like here, because this is sort of a horrific situation. But I got my point across. But yeah, so man, for me it was everything I hoped for, and this episode has me totally pumped, and I can't wait for episode 2 to come out, which is 1 week away. And yeah, so that's all I had to say about this. It's a little ranty. I'm still learning my ropes. So, okay. See you guys later. If you liked this video, I don't know why you would like it, but if you did like this video, please go down, press the like button. There's a red colored button on the side. Make it gray. Subscribe. Please press the bell, all notification. Share this video with your friends. Let me know what you think about in the comments, and let me know if you're excited for Moon Knight like I am, because honestly I'm just salivating at the mouth seeing what this show is going to be. And if you would like to buy my novel, links will be in the description. And yeah, have a nice day everyone.